This year on Idea Generation, we talk to all kinds of innovators and entrepreneurs. And one thing that they reminded me of is that building something great takes a lot out of you. The holidays are my time to slow down, reflect, and really reconnect with family, friends, and the things that inspire me most. I've been using Facebook events to find moments to do just that. Whether it's going to see live music with friends, taking a cooking class with my daughters, or hitting a comic book convention that reminds me why I fell in love with storytelling in the first place. These experiences keep me grounded and inspired. Finding local events that connect me with people and things that I love is how I recharge during the holidays and get inspired for what's next. Because reflection and regeneration are where the next great ideas begin.
I would go and put myself in any show and in any situation at any time, bring my camera. Can I shoot a music video? Can I shoot the show? Can I shoot an interview? Can I just shoot you, whatever that may be. And I knew I wanted to turn it into something, because just bringing around your camera is great, but what's the story you're trying to tell?
At ComplexCon 2025 in Las Vegas, we sat down with Cole Bennett for a special live taping of Idea Generation. As a filmmaker, entrepreneur, and founder of the wildly popular media brand Lyrical Lemonade, Bennett has been a force in influencing the aesthetic of hip-hop for over the past decade, while also launching his own full-scale music festival, releasing a line of canned drinks, and becoming one of the most sought-after music directors in the world. And it all started with one idea. Welcome, Cole. Thank you for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Super happy to be here. It's an honor to be speaking with you, man.
Oh, man. When I look at my own life and trajectory, I think a lot about having the experience as a kid growing up watching my dad program video games, and how that gave me sort of the ambition and the permission to want to be a creative and to take things out of my head and put them into the world and watch people interact with them. And I'm curious, who in your life or what set of circumstances gave you that inspiration and that permission?
I think it was just the idea of growing up in a really small town with very little resources and believing in the idea of imagination. Since I was a kid, I loved playing with toys and action figures and watching movies and just seeing what the world looked like beyond, or could look like beyond, where I was from. And I just feel like my imagination and the circumstance that I had growing up and being raised by my two wonderful older sisters and my mother, who were, my biggest champions. I think I was just surrounded by good people, and I had a dream at a really young age, and I didn't know exactly what that meant at the time. And then as I got older, it started to come to me as like, this crystal clear thing that I knew I loved. But even today, I'm still understanding what that dream is, but it's the idea of just living in a dream to the point where it starts to become reality. And that's where we're at now.
What was the feeling that you were experiencing in those moments leading up to creating the website, being gifted the name Lyrical Lemonade from your mother, and starting this media property?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to create something, right? I never knew what that was. And there's people that ask me all the time, like, I know I want to do something. I want to build something. I want to create something that the world can have for themselves. And I was that same kid, and I just didn't know exactly what that was. At first, I thought I wanted to be a journalist. I thought I was going to go to school for journalism and be a writer. And as I got older, I tried to find what was the one thing that I was consistently into. And it was rap music. I fell in love with the Chicago rap scene, the local scene in Chicago back in 2010, 2011. I would go and put myself in any show and in any situation at any time, bring my camera. Can I shoot a music video? Can I shoot the show? Can I shoot an interview? Can I just shoot you, whatever that may be. And I knew I wanted to turn it into something, because just bringing around your camera is great, but what's the story you're trying to tell? I was like, I'm going to make a blog. So this is the blog era back in like the early 2010s. You know, you write about music. I was like, this is kind of cool. I get to explore my passion of journalism and write about my passion of rap music and things that I don't think are being heard. And then I also get to bring my camera everywhere and shoot a video, interview, a show recap. And yeah, I don't know. The feelings leading up to it was just like I want to make something. That's what excited me. I didn't know what that was. Like I said, I'm still learning what that is. That's the fun in it. My ideas come from a place of imagination, a place of feeling comfortable and safe with whatever I'm exploring, and finding synergy between my imagination and my thought process and the project that I'm working on.
Networking is one of the most crucial skills that a creative or an entrepreneur can master. What were those first, conversations that you were having? You're coming from Plano. You're presumably coming to, a random rap show. Like, who are you running up on? Who are you talking to? And, how were you starting these relationships?
I was a fan of everyone. I'm still a fan of everyone, but I was a fan of the people that weren't used to having fans or people coming up to them. I was a fan of the guys behind the websites writing the articles. I was a fan of the videographer shooting the music videos. I was a fan of the person who was doing the animations, and I would go to events and I would see them and I would recognize them because I followed them on social media. So I was like, wait, I know that guy. And I'd go and I'd talk to him and I'd ask for a photo, and I did the whole thing. And I think it was just the idea of going and meeting people, right? And always putting yourself in a conversation. And it's cliche, but like, you just got to go for it. You never know who you might meet and what that might turn into. Don't feel discouraged when, the 15 people in a row give you the cold shoulder, because people might be busy and it might not be the right time, but you might hit that perfect time where everything works. And I feel like I've hit a lot of those in my life, and I've also been rejected a lot of times, but just go for it.
I'm curious, you were coming from Plano into Chicago, but when you started shooting the BTS and started shooting your first music videos, you ended up sort of really capturing the city in a very important moment culturally. How do you think about your proximity as an outsider sort of informing how you were able to articulate this place to the rest of the world?
It's a great question. I felt like I was a student of it for so long, and I was a fan of it for so long, that I feel like I was able to showcase it from my point of view, not necessarily from someone else's point of view. If you're able to do both, that's amazing. But all I knew how to do was to showcase it from my lens, right? And how I saw it and what it meant to me. So through that, I feel like I was able to find a way to help communicate who these artists are. I think a lot of times I've been able to work with an artist who we kind of figure out their identity together, right? And I think that that's a lot of fun. So it's trial and error, but all I can do at the end of the day is showcase what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling and try my best to, paint your artistry in the way that feels true to you.
In those early days, I know that you did a lot of work for free, whether it was shooting the release parties or even those first early videos. What was the inflection point where you realized that you could actually charge people for this work? And how did you think about setting your rate?
That's a great question. I think I really was taking any amount of money people wanted to give me. Actually, my first time I ever got paid for a video, I sent a sweater link that I wanted, a $25 sweater, to the artist, and I sent him my address, and he bought the sweater for me. So that was the first time I ever got paid for a video. And then from there, it was kind of, what do you think it's worth? Like, what do you have, And you have to know that it's very important to get compensated for your work, but you also have to know that you need to work to learn and to practice and to get better at what you do. So I tried not to ever get too wrapped up in the money thing, because I knew that it would come the harder that I worked. And I kind of, I got paid one time for $100, and I was like, okay, well, that's my rate now. So when someone asked for a video, I said $100. And if they didn't have $100, I was like, you have $50, and then you kind of it's just all a negotiating game of trying to figure it out because no one really knows what they're doing or what they're really worth, right? We create our own number. And then, someone was willing to pay me $500, so that was my new rate. And that kind of just slowly built up to a point where I was able to, I remember I got paid $1,500 for a video. And when I decided that was my new rate, I moved into my second apartment at the time. And I was like, okay, well, if I can book 2 videos a month, I can cover rent and my car payment. And I started to map it all out. But what I realized is that you can have slow months, and when you're a creative artist and you do creative work, it's definitely not consistent. So I found myself in an interesting spot. But it's trial and error. You learn as you go.
Speaking of learning as you go, you have developed a very distinct visual language that I think, many people in this audience could probably close their eyes and think of the tropes of a Cole Bennett video. Do you recall the moment that you felt like you had landed on a personal style?
I think a personal style is interesting because I think it's always changing, right? I think my personal style in 2016 is much different than what my personal style looks like in 2025. Famous Dex was an artist that I was fortunate enough to work with, and we've had incredible memories together and have put out 15 plus videos at this point. My first video I ever did with him, I line doodle animated, right? And going back and looking at those videos, it hurts a bit because I'm like, this is so bad. But at the time, I was up all night like, this is the greatest thing anyone's ever made. And I was so confident in what it was. And I think that was a style, right? And then I think as time went on, I started to explore other things, and then as time went on, I started to explore composition a bit more. And I think it started as an editing thing, and then it turned into a production thing, maybe a wardrobe thing at once, a color palette thing. So a style is always changing, but there's definitely moments where I felt like, okay, this feels like my thing for now, at least. And then you gotta keep evolving though. As soon as you feel like, because I remember seeing a lot of people saying every video looks the same, and I remember saying, damn, it's time to switch it up, and then you try something new, and whether it works or not is up to you, right? If you love it, it's fun, then they'll catch on. You just got to keep on going with it. So you see that happen all the time with artists and film directors, whatever it may be. You got to always reinvent yourself.
Is it hard when you have that chorus of people who, are attached to the feeling that you've created with a certain thing that you do, and they want you to ring that bell again and again and again, but then you have your own desires and your own sort of creative challenges that you want to pursue, and a subset of your audience that want to see you do new and different things?
It's a great question. I think there's definitely been times where people would reach out and they're like, I want a video just like that video. And sometimes you're like, oh, I actually could work for something like this. Maybe we obviously got to redress it and make it unique. But I think as time goes on, you learn that you don't ever want to be in that stride of things. And I think collaboration is great, but creating a new idea is the best way to collaborate. And obviously you pull inspiration from different areas, but you never want to attempt to create the same thing twice. And that's something I learned as I got a little bit older. Yeah, when you create art, there's definitely something that someone discovered you from, a certain piece, a certain video, and they have their favorites, right? And they want to see that done again and again and again. And you got to kind of go against the grain sometimes and be in an uncomfortable position to be able to elevate and, like I said, to reinvent. I doubt myself all the time. I think doubting yourself is really important in the development of figuring out who you are and what you're trying to do. So I think a lot of people think about the concept of doubting themselves as a bad thing, but I actually think that it turns itself into probably the best case scenario. You got to feel that low to reach that high.
When I think about your videos, their success and their greatness is often this confluence of performance, location, and then visual effects. And when you're ideating, is there one portion of that that typically leads sort of your creative process? What are like the first 5 to 10 minutes, like when you know, a song arrives in your inbox and you're starting to sort of formulate?
I just close my eyes and I listen to it, and I will know usually in the first 10 minutes if it's a fit or if it's not. There's been so many videos where I forced something to fit that didn't because I wanted to please someone, or I wanted to, be available to the opportunity. And I'm at a point in my career now where I know pretty quickly whether it's a fit or if it's not. But yeah, I think you just kind of start writing, and I kind of just let it go, and I'll come up with a ton of bad ideas. And if I find one good idea, I'll keep going on it, and then I might scratch that, and then I'll start somewhere else. Or you have one small thing about this idea that works, and then you bring it over here. It's kind of just throwing it all on the board and then reworking it. And then, I have a lot of ideas that aren't specific to any projects just yet, that when I listen to a song, I'll go through all my ideas and I'll be like, oh, this fits perfect here, better than I could have imagined. I didn't think this idea would ever find a home. And then you're like, oh, this would be great with an element of this idea over here. And you kind of just start to piece it all together like a puzzle. I like the idea of just having fun and seeing where it goes. But if you get too stressed and you go to bed and you wake up that next morning and you give it another shot and it's just not working, sometimes you just got to walk away from it. And, maybe the idea comes after that, or maybe it never really fit. I had a moment like that a couple weeks ago. I really loved this song. I really wanted to do it. And I tried. I wrote and I wrote and I sat there and I was just like, I don't think this one's for me. There's been so many videos I've done in my career. I mean, I've done over 500 music videos, right? And there's a good amount of them that I'm not proud of. And there's no worse feeling than putting out a piece of art that you're not proud of. It's like the most, the way it's like your childhood dog dying. It's so bad. And it puts me into such a deep depression. I realize I just don't want to put myself in that position, which I'm thankful to have built the company now to have different pockets of areas where I can feel creative and get creative. And then also I can bring on directors who something might not click for me, but it makes all the sense in the world to the next man, right? So it's just it's a journey.
Have you felt like you've been in a creative rut before?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We all have. I'm sure everyone in this room has been in those creative ruts, those moments. It's challenging, right? Because when we're excited and we're inspired, we're like through the roof. Like if I'm feeling it, I'm jumping around the house, like I'm in it. I'm feeling unstoppable. I'm just so excited. And when I'm not in it, sometimes I get hard on myself because why can't I find the idea? Why can't I strike the magic? I don't understand it. Why am I having such a difficult time doing something that feels like it should be so easy, because I've done it in a way where it came to me so naturally before. So yeah, I go through creative ruts all the time. And what I've noticed is you just kind of got to live life in those moments. Go watch a movie, go for a walk. And I know it sounds cliche, but like go hang out with your friends, push yourself to do something that, you might not even want to do. I feel most inspired when I get new perspective. I'll throw myself in the craziest scenarios solely to learn from it, for better or for worse.
Such as?
Just go to a place you typically wouldn't, study the people, think about their lives when they go home, and live in that for a second. And then go home and write about what that means to you. Did an idea come from that? Did you see something from their perspective? Did you see something, feel something? Like, how did it move you? So it's kind of like a video game, to be honest. I like jumping in other people's bodies and seeing where that takes me.
Speaking of, this sort of inspiration, the creative idea, once you've had that as a video director, you then have to go sell that idea and pitch it and convince not only an artist, but a manager and a label and various other people. What is the key to successfully pitching?
Another great question, man. I expected nothing less.
It's not a hobby.
When it comes to pitching ideas, it's really exciting, but it can also be a bit difficult, right? Because you're walking into a conversation where their thought process might not be aligned with yours, right? What they see it as, the final product, the reach, what's the marketing behind it, which all exists as art forms, right? But maybe weren't the things that you were thinking about when you were ideating. So it's just about patience and passion. If you can speak from passion, then I think you can sell an idea to just about anyone. And there's nothing better than working with excited people. There's nothing better than that. So if you were to pitch me an idea and you were really into it and I could tell that it came from a pure place and it aligned for both of us, I would be all in because I love the idea, hopefully, but maybe even more so because I believe in your passion behind it. I think you have to speak from passion and you got to be ready to know that not every idea is going to land. And the great thing about that is that ideas can be repurposed. I've had so many videos, concepts that I wanted to do that didn't fit right with one person, or they didn't quite understand it, or maybe it wasn't the right moment, that I was able to, rework, retool, repurpose, and bring to someone else, and it worked 10 times better than it would have if it landed the first time I tried to pitch it. So, use it as if it doesn't go well, that is, use that moment as okay, it didn't work well right now, but this idea is not dead. Mm-hmm. This particular situation just isn't working right now. And then let's go try it on somewhere later.
I imagine in the course of directing 500 plus videos, there were times in which even after you had sold an idea, there was perhaps some misalignment between yourself and the artist on what the creative vision is. What would you say is the key to navigating those points of conflict?
It's hard because you're editing a video, right? Or you're writing a concept, or you're designing, a cover art for someone, and you're putting so much time into it, and you continue getting excited about it, and you see how it lives out in the world, and you see the full picture. So when you're really set in your own way of what something is supposed to be, or what you think something's supposed to be, it can be a bit challenging when the person that you're working with wants to rework things, right? But I think that's just a sense of pride and ego that you have to put to the side for a moment and see where they're coming from. There's never been a project where I collaborated with someone I trusted and took notes from them where the final product wasn't something that I ended up liking more than had if I just led the ship. So it's just collaboration. You have to be excited about that, because it's a really beautiful thing. And when you go through an idea together, when you take an idea that you thought was great and you tweak it just a little bit, most times, it ends up being even better. And I think that's really beautiful.
When you launched Lyrical Lemonade as a blog and started your YouTube channel, you started the YouTube channel under your name, Cole Bennett, and eventually, over the years, switched that up and eventually turned it into Lyrical Lemonade, or renamed it rather. How do you think about sort of your personal brand and the brand of Lyrical Lemonade, and sort of their points of overlap and perhaps their points of, sort of distance?
Yeah, no. I think when I started what I was building, I was a 17-year-old kid in high school. So when I started Lyrical Lemonade, I was the sole spokesman for it. I'd go around my school, I'd hand stickers to everyone, put it in your agenda, put it on your what's it called? Locker. And that was my baby, and it still is my baby. As time went on, I started to realize, this is big. Cole Bennett and Lyrical Lemonade, are two separate things though. And I was always involved in everything because I was the only one behind it, right? So I was, putting out this mask of Lyrical Lemonade, but really it's just me behind it. So I'm trying to figure out what the two of those look like. So the YouTube channel was just my name, but every video had that carton on it, the Lyrical Lemonade carton on it, but the YouTube channel is named Cole Bennett. And then in 2016, 2017, You go from, 500,000 subscribers to 1 million subscribers to 2 million subscribers to 3 million subscribers, and it's all happening so fast. And I'm like, all right, well, let me slow down here. This is not what it was supposed to be. The focus is Lyrical Lemonade, but I know that now I've built this audience that kind of treats the two as one. So I wanted to gradually train the audience to understand that, no, this is Lyrical Lemonade. This is bigger than me. So I changed the YouTube channel to Cole Bennett - Lyrical Lemonade. And then I let that go for a year or so. And then I changed the channel to just say Lyrical Lemonade. And, to create that clear distinction, I made that decision back in 2018, but it's been such a gradual, slow burn process. And I feel like now in the year 2025, it's officially reached the point where people look at Lyric Lemonade as a company. It's its own thing. And Cole Bennett is an artist, and he works in his own worlds, and some of the things he does might not even be attached to Lyric Lemonade. And I love that. And we were walking in today, and I saw someone with a Lyric Lemonade t-shirt, and I said, hey, nice t-shirt. He didn't even recognize me,
Yes.
And I loved that.
That did happen.
Yeah, I loved that. My biggest advantage as a creative entrepreneur is being able to understand both sides. I think I lean more in the creative side of things, but I'm able to understand the business as well. And I think that allows me to make sure that we're aligned in all areas. I think that might be my upper edge.
Tell me about, those early days of growing the business. Who was your first employee? And when did you realize that this was going to be bigger than just you running around the city with a camera?
Absolutely, man. My first ever, there's a couple that were around the same time, one of which is still with me to this day, and he's an absolute animal. He's so impressive in every way. His name is Elliot. There's been so many different timelines when it comes to Lyric Lemonade and working with friends and building it into what it is. And it gets difficult, right? When you're building something with people you grew up with and you guys are all on the same page, and then you start to get older and things start to get real, and there's, things you have to do, and we're not just kids anymore, right? And the ship needs to be sent in the proper direction. And if everyone on board isn't on the same page, then things can quickly go in the wrong direction. So, I think it's just about keeping people around you that you trust. And then you always need to reintroduce the fact of, what's our mission statement? What are we moving forward towards? And what are we trying to build here?
How would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style. Wow. I don't think I've ever answered that question. I'd like to think that I'm very. I establish what the values, morals, and ethos of the company are, and how to take care of people, how to handle people, and how to welcome people into our home. Whether that means them stepping directly into our headquarters, or whether that means we're on an email chain with someone. And it's about treating people respectfully, and it's about making sure that we're clear and communicative with what we're trying to do. There's nothing worse than people who appear to be a bit lost. So we've kind of always been on the side of, even if we don't know exactly what we're doing, let's try our best to keep it together. So yeah, I would say it's trying to lead as gracefully as possible. It's trying to be a good representation of what I want the company to be received as, and it's trying to make sure that everyone's having fun. Like, that's super big to me. It's like, let's treat it like a playground. Let's really live all of our childhood dreams and reinvent what our futures are going to look like in a way where we all feel excited to do so, and let's never let that imagination run dry.
Well, it's clear from watching your episode of On Display that you have sort of taken that and manifested it physically in your workspace.
Mm-hmm.
As you've sort of had to scale the business, you came to maturity as an artist, I think, kind of at the peak of hip hop's sort of streaming apex in 2017, 2018, 2019. And obviously, music goes through cycles and there's ups and downs. How have those cycles impacted your business?
It's another great question, man. I would say you can't look too closely at what's going on. I mean, you need to read what's going on, but at the same time, we can never be in control of the direction of entertainment, consumption, how people get on their phone and what they consume and digest and how they do it. I mean, what's happened since 2016 to now it's a completely different game, and the idea of short form content and, the accessibility people have to go out and put something out and it be received well in the algorithm. And I think it's all great. Now, when something begins to shift and change, I think you need to look at it and reassess if need be, but you just need to, like I was saying, those ethos, you just need to figure out how they plug into what's going on now. And I think if you jump into what's happening solely to capitalize on a moment, that's when you're left empty-handed, even if it works, because you're like, okay, well, now what do I do? And then before you know it, you're running a business or a style of art that isn't even really true to what you intended it to be. So it's about patience, reading what's going on, looking at all the data and kind of reassessing if need be, or figuring out how you could still tell your message in a new way.
It's interesting you say that, and you mentioned the algorithm, and then you talk about reading the data. YouTube has been the core platform for your business. How much time do you spend looking at the analytics or thinking about sort of the engineering side of your creativity?
I think YouTube it's also interesting to me. The algorithm, how it feeds different things. I mean, nowadays, it doesn't even matter how many YouTube subscribers you have, how many Instagram followers you have. Your content is going to reach who your content wants to reach or who is looking for it, right? And it's all based on every individual's algorithm rather than there being one hierarchy and you kind of just go and consume media from that one spot. So I think that excites me. That excites me, and I think people would be confused to hear me say that because I think the previous way things worked with YouTube and music videos in general were a lot more conducive to what we're building here at Lyrical Lemonade. But it pushes myself and the company to try new things. And just like what I was saying, it's about, okay, we reassess, we look at what's going on. How do we plug in a way that feels true to us and what we've built, and going from there, and building out different series and different things and finding new ways to empower, artists. And that's exciting for me. And we're still figuring out what that looks like and how that appears in the world. But it's a challenge, and like that's what gets me going. When we talk about that excitement, when you're trying to channel it, it comes from being in situations where you don't know exactly what that next step should be. So we've arrived.
You talk about embracing the new, and when I think about the Doomsday video, that was a fairly early use of AI, in that instance, obviously in sort of a deep fake capacity, but obviously AI is the story of 2025. How do you think about that technology, and what is your sort of relationship been with it so far?
That particular video, I'm very proud of because I feel like it was handled in such a delicate way. And, Juice and his legacy, his family, and everyone involved is so important to me. So bringing that concept to his mother and pitching the idea felt very freeing for me because she was really open to the idea and what we were going to be doing. So I took terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of footage that I'd captured of Juice over the years. And then we had modeled that around Corday's face. So we'd go into this studio and we would model Juice's face into Corday's face so that they could snap in and out because their verses were going back and forth. I love that video because through the terabytes and terabytes of footage that I sent them, you're seeing different variations of that throughout the whole video. So like there might be one moment where he turns a certain direction and I see a blemish that I remember on his face from the Bandit video, and it took me through so many different chapters of our story, and it kind of felt like everything combined into one, and me knowing that was going to be our last video together and sharing that moment with Corday, and knowing that Juice really wanted to do a video for that song. So that whole thing was very freeing. But I think so because it was done in such an ethical way. And AI is obviously a very touchy subject. And I go through waves and ups and downs on how I feel about it and how I think it's helpful and how I also think it's destructive. And I think that it is a great tool for efficiency. And I think it can help you bring ideas to life. Now, I think it's a bit concerning when, you're on YouTube and you get an ad. I don't have YouTube Premium, guys, so I get ads all the time.
I could not believe this when he told me.
But I'm seeing a beer commercial or an insurance commercial, and it's an AI, and I'm like, okay, now this feels concerning, because now I feel like I'm being lied to, especially if it's not being disclosed, and I'm sure there'll be some sort of, I don't know, parameters that are going to be put into place, but it's hard to wrap my head around. I do see some of the beauty in what it can be. When CGI came out in the late 80s, a lot of people weren't happy about that. They wanted real explosions. They didn't want computer-generated explosions. And this is quite a bit different. But yeah, man, I'm just kind of seeing it unravel. And like I said, my feelings on it are changing every other day. I see some of the beauty in it, and I also see a lot of the evil, if you will, in it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. We're living in crazy times. I just saw Dennis Rodman go to space in a school bus, man. So,
tell me about growing Lyrical Lemonade. Do you remember the year that you broke $1 million in revenue?
Yeah, I remember the moment. And it was really cool. And it really wasn't that long ago, to be honest. So I've never really been fixated on the idea of money, and I noticed that whenever I kind of flirted with the idea of entertaining it, it kind of pulled me away from what I think is what keeps me here and keeps me present and keeps me motivated and where I need to be. But yeah, I mean, it's a really beautiful thing when that $50 music video turns into something that you can take care of your family with and take care of the people you love with, and look around and be like, man, we did it, and it's emotional for me because I just couldn't have ever imagined this, and I was thinking the other day, I was like, my life when every single thing that could have went right happened, and I feel very thankful for that, and I feel like I walk with a purpose. So I don't know how to answer that question, but it feels good to know that you're able to take care of the people you love.
As you've grown the business and scaled the operation, that necessarily sort of takes you somewhat away from your role as a maker, I would imagine. How do you navigate keeping yourself, creatively engaged and excited and doing the part of the business that got you into it while still leading a company of 10 people and, apparel experiences and CPG products, et cetera, et cetera?
It's a great question. Not all money's good money. And I think when you're building something, if you're doing it right, you're probably getting a lot of opportunity, monetary opportunity. And knowing when to involve yourself in something and knowing when not to is a very, very important part of building a business, especially a creative business, especially a business that is so rooted in who you are, your childhood and what you've built, with friends and family. It's much more precious to me than if I was doing a startup on, I don't know, a tech startup that didn't really mean anything to me and I was trying to find a quick exit. This is something that is really, really important to me. So it is difficult at times, as a business owner, you go through waves where there might be the most amazing opportunity that comes in from a monetary perspective, but that opportunity might not look the same from alignment, creatively, and what are we trying to build, and the ethos I speak on, and the values and the morals. So you just got to always be ready to reassess and look at a situation for what it is. And sometimes you might be blown away. Like, hey, there's this opportunity right in front of us, and there's a way that we can all be happy, and those are the best kind of ones. But it's not always like that. And you have to know when it's not the right fit. And sometimes I think we feel our backs are against the wall, and there's an opportunity that comes in, and we have to take it, because where else am I going to go? And sometimes you just got to suffer, and you might, think your demise is near, but you gotta push through. Because every time I've been in a situation like that where I was like, oh, it's time, I might have to do this, something else comes, and it all makes sense. So trust the process. The best idea I ever had was to chase my dream. I feel like I was in high school and everyone was thinking about college, and I was thinking about something else. I also knew I needed to go to college, or I thought I needed to go to college, but knowing that I was gonna drop out of school and go for this was the best idea I ever had. Committing to leaving what felt like the most stable, appropriate route to take, being college, and going in a direction that felt a little bit against the grain and a lot more risky, was so adrenaline driven, and so, I don't know, it was surreal, it was exciting, it really led me to a new place.
A few years ago, you revealed that you walked away from a $30 million offer for Lyrical Lemonade. Do you still feel as resolute about that decision? And have you been offered other opportunities to sell the business?
Oh, I feel better about passing on that money more than ever. I think if I would have taken $30 million at age 20, I couldn't even legally drink. I think it would have been ugly. I think I wouldn't have known what to do. I don't think I was mature enough to handle that. And thank God I was so rooted in like my values and what I stood for at the time, because I felt good saying no. I kind of puffed my chest when I did it, actually. But there's been times as I've gotten older where I'm like, damn, that 30 mil would have looked nice, But I believe in the fact that, if we're talking money here, I believe that comes when it's supposed to come, at the amount it's supposed to come, when it's supposed to come. And you just got to believe in that. So, there's been different companies and people that have come and wanted to buy the company, or, build out whatever they envisioned. And it's very flattering, and at some point there might be a fit, right? But it's about finding the right fit so that you can go to bed at the end of the night and being like, okay, I did what I was supposed to do, because there's no worse feeling. It's like what I was saying earlier about putting out that video that you're not proud of, and it just eats you alive. Man, I can only imagine, making a ton of money and making a decision that you weren't really proud of. I think that would probably live with you for the rest of your life. The money might be nice, but that only covers it up for so long, right?
What have been the most exciting and challenging parts of the growth of the brand into the festival, into the lemonade? These are things that are sort of outside of your core skill set, but I imagine, create new and sort of interesting intellectual challenges.
Yeah, the company growing into what the company's grown into, I still every day, I'm like, what is even going on? Looking out at the festival and seeing 40,000 people gather a day, and it started off as a 90-person free show in a rehearsal room. I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's real life. I feel kind of thrown off by the whole thing, but I think it's so exciting because it's so nerve-wracking. When you're building something that is growing at a rate that you could have never imagined, don't get me wrong, it's very exciting, it's very fun, but it's very, very nerve-wracking because it's taking shape as it goes, and you can't control every little thing. With that festival, I'm not editing that video. I can't say, delete that. I don't like that. You could do it before the gates open, but what happens beyond that point, anything could happen, right? And I think that's, I think it's great because it's, you're seeing people come together and have a great time, but it's bigger than you, truly. With the Lemonade and all the different ventures that we've dove into and have tried our hands at, it's all a learning curve, I had to learn about the beverage industry in 12 months, and that was not something I ever anticipated doing, and then through that you realize, oh, I'm really into this, or maybe I'm not as into this as I thought. But that's why I like just always doing new things. And like Lyrical Lemonade means so many different things to so many different people. And we're going to keep pushing that agenda and keep exploring new territory. And we're going to keep putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations because that's how we're going to keep learning.
You mentioned earlier that one of the things that you're most excited about pursuing is long-form filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And I understand you are in the earliest stages of, putting together what would be potentially your first feature film.
Yeah.
What has been the most inspiring and what has been the most scary part of that process?
Well, what I learned about a movie and what a lot of people have told me, great piece of advice, is that when you go onto a movie, just understand that you're giving away 2 to 3 years of your life into something. And music videos are much different. I give 2 to 3 weeks to something, and when it's out, if I hate it and I go through that moment of, then I get over it, we're on to the next one. And it's just this very fast, gratifying feeling, and you're always on the move. And I've learned how to operate in that capacity so well. So the last year was about, okay, let's slow down. Let's not put out 30 music videos this year as Cole Bennett. Let's do 3 to 4 ones that I feel confident about. And outside of that, let me go back to being a student. Let me understand filmmaking in a way I never have before. Let me write more. Let me write even more. Let me come up with so many bad ideas that I think are great in the moment that then I bring to people I trust and they chew and spit out back at me. Let me feel that moment of, they don't get it. Then let me wake up the next day and be like, wait, no, they have a good point here. And going through all that is so important because it's helped me learn. And the best piece of advice I've gotten is your first movie needs to be something that's very personal to you. I just kept trying to figure out what that was. And I finally stumbled upon something that feels super, super personal to me. It's something I'm excited to tell and something that I feel will help me process a lot of things in a beautiful way. And it'll be more than just making a film. It will be therapeutic. It will be all the things. And that's what excites me. But it's just about slowing down for a second and then getting ready to speed up faster than you ever have.
Well, I think I speak for everyone in this room. I look forward to watching your feature debut. Cole, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, everybody here, for coming and spending this early afternoon with us.